Nice to be here.
Thanks, really. Thank you for coming. And great. I think we've got about 45 people online now, so we'll make a start. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to explore London's life sciences ecosystem. And I think we couldn't have chosen a better day if we planned it to do this on the day when the first COVID vaccine is being administered. So we're all really excited about this. And so let's hope that this is a good omen for our event today as well. And I just want to introduce myself briefly and my colleagues here on the call. My name is Surah Hussain, and I work here at London and Partners in London. And I work with companies in life sciences and health tech to help them find connections in London and set up a presence here. I will be guiding you through the event today, which we've created together with our team in North America. And so welcome to all of you who are dialing in from the US, from Canada. We've got people from South America, from Europe. So great to have you all here in this international welcome. So quick note on housekeeping. If I could ask everyone to remain on mute until we come to the Q&A sessions. We'll have two Q&A sessions, one in the middle of the event and one at the end. My colleague Blair from San Francisco, she's on the chat, and she will be posting contact details for us at London and Partners, and also for the speakers and other resources throughout the event today on the chat. So please feel free to ask any questions on the chat, and we'll come to them during the Q&A as well. If I could ask everyone to rename yourself as your name and your company name. So when you go on to your name on Zoom and click on more, then you can go on to rename and put your first name, last name, and company name if you could. Thank you. So this meeting will be recorded, and we will be sharing the recording and the slides with you tomorrow, and some other follow-up resources. So I'm handing over now to Penny Harwood, our Chief Representative for North America, to introduce us and the team. Over to you, Penny. Thank you.
Thank you, Surah. Good morning, afternoon to everyone joining us today. My name's Penny Harwood, and I'm the Interim Chief Representative for London and Partners, and I'm based in our San Francisco office. For those of you joining who may be unfamiliar with us, we are London's international trade, investment and promotion agency, and our mission is to tell London's story brilliantly to an international audience. Our work shines a global spotlight on London, promoting the UK's capital internationally as a leading world city in which to visit, study, invest, grow and meet. Now, as a not-for-profit public-private partnership, London and Partners supports the Mayor's priorities, one of which is focused on good growth for London. And we help to achieve this by attracting international scaling companies across many sectors worldwide to expand and set up in the Greater London region. This is a city of over 9,300,000 people, offering an exceptional and diverse talent pool, and in particular for life sciences companies looking to expand as an entry point into the UK and the EMEA markets, a very broad trial pool. Once companies establish in London, we offer additional business support as they scale and then look to further export and trade from the UK. All of our services are free, comprehensive and confidential. So we work with companies from all over the world, and we've put this event together for you today to showcase what London can offer your business and how you can access the vast opportunities in the world's most global city. London is an unparalleled place for companies to grow and collaborate because it merges the life sciences sector with the tech sector in a very supportive ecosystem. We refer to London as a city of convergence, as it provides access to incredible diverse talent, universities, finance, research capabilities, regulators, professional advisors, and of course, the jewel in the crown, our healthcare system, the NHS, is a potential market. So just taking a quick look at the agenda for today, we have some fantastic speakers who represent part of the ecosystem. And we do hope that by the end of this event, you'll have a better idea about London and how we can help you. Our partner organisation, MedCity, is also attending today's event, and we'll be introducing MedCity during the Q&A session a little bit later. We have a couple of sections for our agenda today. And I'd like to also talk a little bit about the teams in London, but across our core markets, especially in North America, where I'm based. We do have offices in North America, Asia, and Europe. And I'd like to introduce our team here in North America. We're spread out across 5 offices based in New York, Toronto, Chicago, LA, and San Francisco. Here are the heads of each of our offices, but we are a broader group. And some of you attending today may have been in touch with some of our other colleagues also located in these offices. Blair, who's been mentioned earlier, works with me here in San Francisco. She's going to be hosting the Q&A session of the discussion a little bit later. All of our overseas team work on the ground in your regions to support and start conversations early in your exploration and learning. So do reach out if we can help. We are in your time zones and we are very eager to support you. And we, along with our teams and stakeholder partners in London, can assist you as you navigate London's ecosystem, connect with academia, industry, and the NHS, and access potential partners and investment opportunities. I'm now very pleased to welcome our first speakers, Nigel Taylor, Managing Director, and Anil Vaidya, Associate from IMA, and they are specialists in market entry to the UK to talk to us about market access to the NHS, the National Healthcare System. Over to you, Anil and Nigel.
Thank you very much, Penny. I'm going to let Anil take you through this and we'll chirp in when required. Over to you, Anil.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. Hello, everyone. My name is Anil Vaidya, and I work with Nigel, who's the founder of IMA, a market entry consultancy group, and I'm their life science specialist supporting overseas companies enter into London. We've only got about 10 minutes, so I thought I'd give you a quick healthcare overview in the UK, and then a run through on the public healthcare system in England. And then Nigel and I are going to share some thoughts based on our experiences on supporting companies into the NHS. So the National Health Service, or the NHS as it's known, is the UK's publicly funded healthcare system that provides a free, comprehensive service to all residents and citizens. And the organisation is one of the largest employers in the world, and it's certainly the largest employer in England. And as you can imagine, with such a large organisation comes a high level of complexity. And to add to the confusion just a little bit more is the fact that the other nations, so England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, also have their own NHS with slight variations in delivery of service. So to give you some kind of context in terms of the workload that the NHS experiences, on a daily basis, over 800,000 people visit their general practitioner or doctor. That's every day. And over 50,000 people visit the emergency department. And that's not including the over 200,000 people or so that call on all sorts of other services within the NHS, from outpatients, emergency admissions, and planned treatments. And these numbers are only expected to get bigger, principally because the population of the UK is getting older, and the senior population, with increasing complex healthcare needs, is putting pressure on the existing range of services. And like the majority of developed countries, the UK's main cause of death are due to cardiac diseases, such as heart disease and stroke, cancer with lung, breast, prostate, and bowel cancer accounting for more than 50% of new incidents of cancer, as well as chronic respiratory diseases and infectious diseases. I'm going to skip over the point about morbidity. And what I really want to talk about is actually the last point, is about the structure of the NHS, because this is more relevant about understanding the different kind of organizations that exist within the system and where you potentially be selling your product into. I mentioned that the NHS is a complex organization, and as such, the entry points are numerous and varied. However, in general, if you're a patient, your first point of entry is going to be via your general practitioner or GP, who's effectively a gatekeeper to access the different services that you're going to require, you might require, such as clinical specialists, imaging or diagnostics tests. And these services and many more services such as hospital care, rehab, emergency care, community health care, mental health, can all be thought of as independent organisations that are bought services by what's known as the clinical commissioning groups, or CCGs. There are around 135 CCGs in England and 32 in London, and their purchasing consideration is based on the local needs within the community they serve and the priorities that these CCGs set themselves. The main take-home message about the NHS is that it's a constantly evolving organisation with numerous parts being created and emerged, all with the focus on improving healthcare within the UK, managing the costs and delivering appropriate care for the individual. Kern, can you put the next slide on, please? So just bear with me. I'm just trying to see if I can see that screen. Okay. I mentioned earlier that Nigel and I put together some thoughts based on our experiences of what companies need and what they need to consider before going into the NHS. And Nigel's put up this traffic light system approach. So I'm going to talk through on the different traffic light points. So the first point is the size of the market. Earlier on, I mentioned about the size of the increasing population within the UK. But that's not really enough to consider. As all investors are going to tell you, you need to understand the addressable market and whether this size is appropriate for your product. And Nigel, I think you wanted to mention a point about this, didn't you, about the kind of addressable market size?
Very much so. I think when you are looking at the market, you can't just say there are so many of this type of ailment and say that's our market. What you've got to understand is, if you look at that ailment, you've got to understand how they're currently treated. And then you've got to do an assessment as to where your solution fits. Because the addressable market, the market may appear to be absolutely huge, but because something is much cheaper to deliver, it may include rest or whatever, and you may have quite a complicated solution, but one which is got great results. It might be quite expensive and come quite a long way down the clinical pathway. So you've got to understand where your solution fits in the overall market, because that's going to be what the market size is for you. And it's then you're then going to have to assess, and your clients are going to have to assess whether they can afford your solution given the size of that market.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. Kern, I'm just looking at the slide that you've got there. So it looks like our green colours and the extra points haven't actually kind of come out on that. So, are they? Okay. So you magically press the button. I'll tell you what, can you just do me a favour? Can you just magically press that button all the way through so I can just kind of read that through? That's great. All right, okay, that makes my life a lot easier. All right. So the second point, thanks, Nigel, to what you were talking about. So the second point really is about better patient outcomes and how this can involve, and this can involve a number of different types of measures that can help differentiate your product, such as improved patient services, patient experiences, number of repeat prescription treatments, less pain, minimal invasion, the speed of recovery. The third point is value for money. Essentially, does this device or service reduce the cost of something that is already provided within the NHS in conjunction with the patient receiving the treatment? So this could be an improvement in terms of productivity, a reduction in medication, hospital stays, or even reduction in medical errors. And associated with this value for money consideration and better patient outcomes is the impact the introduction of such a device would have in changing the clinical pathways. These pathways are defined by NICE, or NICE, who are known as the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. Now, while the pathways that are defined are not mandatory to be followed, the introduction of any new product needs to take into consideration the guidance that is being provided by this body. The fourth point, which is kind of linked to NICE really, is the regulatory position. I know we've got a regulatory expert that's going to be talking to us a little bit later on, so I don't really want to go into too much detail. I can't really go into too much detail anyway, but suffice to say that the regulatory position from the start of January 2021 will be changing. The medical device approval is provided by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, or the MHRA for short. Now, while this traffic light refers to CE marking, this is going to transition to the UK CA marking, known as UK Conformity Assessed, from July 2023. However, for selling into the NHS, it's not just good enough to have your product suitably approved. Some products may require going through NICE's technology appraisal process, and the NHS is obliged to fund and resource medicines and treatments recommended by NICE technology guidelines. And this takes the form of clinical and economic evidence. And does it represent value for money? So for companies that are looking to provide, and for those companies that are looking to provide digital solutions, and in the case of apps, approved apps, and that they want to get listed onto the NHS Digital Library, they also need to be assessed by NHS Digital, NHSX, and they'll be looking at clinical safety, data protection, technical assurance, interoperability, usability, and accessibility. And the final point is really speaking to the right people and making sure you get the support from key opinion leaders. The KOLs will open the doors, and they can help you identify, and we can help you identify the most appropriate people across the country should you wish to set up in London. So what I've outlined is really a snapshot of the points that you need to consider if you wish to set up and sell into the NHS. And whilst I think a lot of this does sound challenging, especially the regulatory considerations, it's all manageable. And within your own countries, you've gone through those kind of regulatory approvals yourself. But it's something that we, IMA, can help you with, LMP can help you with, and many of the other people that are on the call with us now. And I think the last question you have to have in mind if you're really serious about coming into the market is, really, is it worth it? And if you believe that your product can solve the challenges that the NHS is facing, it's definitely seriously worth exploring the market, and we can help you on this. So Nigel, are there any last points that you want to make?
No, I think, you know, the point that you need to have green and yellow lights is an important one. I think the other thing which I can't really overestimate is, if you are selling into the NHS, it is a massive gold star against your name, and it also opens up the market into the Middle East, into other European countries. You talked about key opinion leaders. All the key opinion leaders in Europe talk, and it also opens up the market to the Commonwealth as well. So it's not always easy, but it can be unbelievably rewarding, and there is a massive market to go at. And of course, this gold star is something that I would really recommend any US business, or in fact any business, getting.
Thank you, Nigel. And thank you, Anne. That was brilliant. I love the gold star and the traffic light system. So I think this is a really visual way of explaining what companies have to think about. So thank you for this. And we'll hear a bit more about regulation after the next panel. So I now have the pleasure to introduce back Penny to lead our panel of companies who have already successfully managed to work with the NHS, which I think this is going to be really valuable for everyone on the call hearing this first-hand experience. So I'm delighted to introduce these 3 London companies now who will share their journey. So we have Sarah Kiroish from Kieron Medical. We have Neil Griffiths from Teletracking, and we have Clint Schick from Strata Health here with us. Over to you, Penny. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Really thrilled to be in conversation with our panelists today. Before we get started with intros and our discussion, I'd like to thank you all and everybody actually in the broader ecosystem for the incredible work that you're all doing, the impact of the solutions around efficiencies and saving lives, especially in these unprecedented times. And as Sura mentioned earlier, this really is an historic day, in particular for the UK, with the fantastic news about the debut of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine that started to be administered initially in 50 hospitals across the UK. So let's kick off. Could I please ask each of you to introduce yourselves and your company? Just a short intro would be great. Kicking off with Sarah from Chiron Medical, then over to Neil at Teletracking, and then Clint from Strata Health.
Thank you, Penny. So hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Sarah Karouche. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Chiron Medical, and we've developed an AI solution for breast cancer screening. And we just won one of the first government AI awards to deploy our technology at 15 hospitals. We've also conducted what we believe is one of the largest AI trials in radiology with 280,000 women. And we're publishing those results soon. So exciting times. And I think, we're developing this technology in the context of a very big problem, which is there's a massive shortage of breast radiologists in breast screening. So those screenings are getting delayed, and that's only being exacerbated by COVID. So there's now 1 million women in the UK didn't get screened this year, and we're not going to be able to catch up unless we start adopting technologies quickly. So that's it from me.
Great, thank you. So yeah, my name is Neil Griffiths. I'm the Managing Director for Teletracking Technologies in Europe. A bit about my background. I've spent most of my career actually working in the NHS, so just under 25 years working in NHS hospitals of various types, mainly in London. But for the last 3 years, I've been leading the teletracking effort in London and beyond. We've just started looking beyond the UK. Teletracking is based in Pittsburgh, and it's been 30 years supporting hospitals and health systems to improve patient flow, so to tackle the various inefficiencies that exist between patient admissions, that's both within hospitals and across whole health systems. And we've been working in the UK, and I'll say a bit more about this later, but for about 12 years, but only really in the last 3 years, giving quite a serious push to promote our solutions. So I look forward to sharing some more information later.
Great, and hi there, my name is Clint Schick. I'm the Chief Exec of Strata Health UK. A little bit about my background. In the 90s, I enjoyed posts across some multinationals in North America in global logistics, and coordinated across countries and several continents. In 2002, I moved to Strata, a health tech startup, as an early seed investor and one of the principals for the business. And our focus was really dedicated to system-wide patient flow logistics, so coordinating the post-acute care across local authorities and community services, both statutory and non-statutory providers, and then really looking at out-of-hospital access, demand, capacity, and placement across integrated healthcare systems. Strata broadened its kind of reach across Canada. The UK was a natural market to which to look at to expand. So in 2008, I founded Strata Health UK, moved the family down, and I've been here ever since. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you all. And we've carefully selected all of you representing a London scaling company, American and also Canadian. So it's great to have you with us. And to just give us a little bit of context, just kicking off, starting with Sarah and then back over to Neil and Clint. Could you all talk about why you chose London specifically to set up your business and what really was the key driver behind that decision?
Somebody muted me. I didn't mute myself. Sorry. London and the UK is an extraordinary confluence of talent. So tech talent, market talent, the NHS, we talked about that earlier, what an extraordinary opportunity that is in terms of data access, the gold star, and then the ability to work closely with government. The project that we're working on now, which is rolling out MIA to the 15 hospitals, it's astonishing the level of support we have from the sort of highest levels of government. And it's just amazing to be able to do that in one city. It's such a rare combination that you're able to come together and, you know, work on comms at the highest level, or policy, or commercial, or the science, and it's all here. And you know, it's a unique opportunity to develop and scale products in the healthcare environment. I can't think of anything like it.
Well, let me add to that. I mean, I think, I agree with all of that. I think from our perspective, actually, we took quite a pragmatic approach, actually, and London, as well as being a brilliant place to be in, good infrastructure and you know, vibrant to work in, we found that actually getting around the rest of the country is pretty easy from London, so that was important to us. Actually meeting people that are key decision makers, they tend to hang out in London, so we thought that was quite useful. So NHS England, NHS Improvement, and have most of their sort of senior folk in London, although they do have offices elsewhere around the country. So they were important. They were important to us. And actually, what we found as well is that then the central London, but then the surrounding areas, actually it's easier for us to get access to the surrounding areas of London, which is important also as we've grown what we're doing. I mean, it's interesting, most of our people are spread around, actually, and the National Health Service is a national health service, so you don't necessarily have to congregate in one place, but we found practically London is a really good place to do business.
And I guess to chime in here, some consistent thinking, but London is London, and for a Canadian guy, hey, that's pretty cool to be here. But it's so central in terms of UK's hub. The access is impressive to a network of operational imperatives. It really allows us on the transportation side to be in all four corners of the UK really quickly. If I need to be up north for a meeting and then I really need to get home in the evening, 9 times out of 10, I can do it. And that adds to quality of life versus flying across North America. Just doesn't happen. Access to Europe is one thing that has been important for us. And Brexit will require some added checks and balances come January. But openly in the last few years, I can be at the Cansbank Hospital in Paris, door to door, in less than 2.5 hours. And that's pretty impressive. It's vibrant, it's leading edge. We've utilized so many different services across the patch, and it's certainly helped us in accounting and in setting up Companies House, in understanding the long-term plan for the NHS and building contacts with NHSI and NHSE. It's a great place to be. And then I guess lastly, for myself, I need to continue to go back to North America. So there's quite a bit of international back and forth. And again, access to that international travel component is important as well. And I can be back and forth pretty seamlessly from there.
Penny,
yes.
Just wanted to add that, one thing that's been really important for us is London and Partners, the emphasis on identifying and supporting scaling companies in so many ways that have been meaningful. I mean, the trade missions to California, we were on a virtual trade mission today to India. So you can't underestimate the organizations, especially like London and Partners, that are in place to do exactly that, to make sure that you scale and develop and utilize all of the potential of the UK to become a global business.
Great, thank you all so much. And thanks very much, Sarah. I know you've participated many times as part of the trade support services that we provide, and you are kind of, living example of how powerful that really has been. So thank you for that. So we've talked obviously about the NHS, and the NHS is one of the main reasons that companies look to enter into the UK for their expansion plans, and you will work with the NHS. Could you talk, and I'm going to kick off with Clint, then go to Neil, and then come back to Sarah, about how you've done that? What challenges have you perhaps faced? The NHS is a bit of a beast. Have you kind of, woven your way in and kind of connected in, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, firstly, let me say that the NHS is a world-class health and care provider. We've said kind of the gold star when you get to engage. And, its constitution is woven into the fabric of our culture, and it's been an honor to work with these great folks. But there has been a few little hurdles that we've come across along the way. you know, a national strategy, when you look at this, is it a national strategy? Well, absolutely it is, but there are deep rooted localizations in delivery as well. So we really need to kind of understand those, and you need to have boots on the ground to do that. You know, the assumption is, you know, being a national service it's ubiquitous in terms of, you know, how trusts operate, the consistency of strategy and delivery. But there's also this localized policy and procedure and planned delivery. So a lot of times a cookie cutter approach hasn't worked for us, and we've been able to kind of overcome that by getting in and understanding, you know, these local nuances and living that experience. Really, really important to be able to understand, you know, how things operate from Cumbria to Cornwall, or from Liverpool to Newcastle, or from Oxford to Cambridge. So that's the first thing. I guess the second thing might be around just the number of organizations that we've had to deal with, and it's been a little bit of a different beast than some of the things we've dealt with in North America. And so if you look at kind of, you know, the NHS has some acronyms as well, and you know, you look at neighborhood and place and systems. There's been a movement to ICSs, so an integrated care system, but within kind of a patch of say 2 million people, you can have up to 40 different organizations, whether that be hospital trusts, community, mental health, local authorities, county councils, CCGs. And so to kind of coordinate all that, certainly for our business where we span across all of those different organizations to coordinate that care, it can be a beast. As I had mentioned, the integration of kind of those organizations and the consolidation is currently underway. So it's an exciting time. But again, being kind of part of the ecosystem, being present in those areas has been absolutely critical. Sarah, or?
I think it's me. I think
Neil, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's me. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I think all of that is well said. I think it's. I think the guys at the start said this. It's worth recognising that the NHS is a nationally publicly funded system. It's a nationally funded system, but actually, it's many different organisations within that. So you're not dealing with one entity. You're dealing with many different organisations, and I think it's quite easy to make an assumption because it's relatively small. If you look at the size of the US, you know, state and market, and you look at the NHS, you think, oh, that's quite small compared to what we're used to. It's very complicated. So I think that I can't emphasize enough actually how it's really worth trying to understand that. And then to make it more challenging, just without wanting to put people off, is that of course the NHS is now going through another version of change about how it manages itself. So it's changing structures. It's looking to bring providers and hospitals together, create integrated care partnerships, integrated care systems. And I think actually that will make it easier in the long term, but we're in the process of working that out at the moment. So there's sort of uncertainty, I think, as that change is made, which makes it quite complicated to have a sort of a sales-based conversation in that sort of uncertainty. And we've certainly seen that. The other thing to get across is that once you have found out who your buyer is, and that's not straightforward, but let's assume it's a hospital, there are quite strict processes of which they need to follow, procurements. There's quite a timeline to that. So you need to understand that going into those conversations. I think that's really important because you can quite easily think you're at a certain point and then realise you've sort of got to go back 2 steps to move forward. So that's also worth really understanding, getting that process piece right. It can take a bit of time. So that's the other thing, just to bear in mind, that you've got to be really patient. You've got to be persistent. You've got to really present your case very well, as was discussed earlier. And just because you've may have a very good product, service, solution that is going to save the NHS a lot of money, it's going to save lives, it doesn't mean that the process of getting that bought is going to be straightforward. It doesn't work like that. You've still got to work hard, even if you think you've got the best thing. So I think you've just got to be really resilient to that and stick to it. If you think you've got something that's worth it, you've got to really stick in there. Because I think it is worth it in the end, because the NHS is a fantastic health system, so it's good to be in it. But it's a bit of a sort of love-hate thing, I think, going on at times. It's quite challenging.
I think my perspective on this is slightly different. I don't disagree with what's been said, but I think everything's changed since COVID. I think the adoption of technology in the last 6 months has been absolutely extraordinary. And some of the CCIOs I know have said that more technology has been adopted in the last 6 months than the last 18 years of their careers. I also think there's some really interesting new agencies like the NHSX AI team, for example, or the Accelerated Access Collaborative, whose job essentially is to make sure that your technologies are seen by the right people in the right time, and that you have that support to understand the ecosystem, because it is complicated. But I have to say, our experience has been quite extraordinary, from the large scale study that I referred to earlier and the sites that we're working with and the team that we have now at NHSX and the Accelerated Access Collaborative. They're all pulling because I think they know that there is an opportunity to move more quickly than we have historically, and there's an imperative to do so. So it's actually a really exciting time to be here. And I think, yeah, I can't, the level of support and willingness and push that we've experienced is unprecedented in my career. You know, and I worked for 20 years in Silicon Valley, and I worked with Joe Biden's team at the White House on the moonshot. So I just think it's a great, great time. There is uncertainty, but there's a will. And there's also some really interesting things happening around procurement. So there's a bill in Parliament now that will facilitate the adoption of and the procurement of new technologies in a way that's not been possible before. So I think for the entrepreneurial, it's a great time to be here.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. Really helpful insights actually from all of your perspectives, and I hope very valuable for everybody listening in today. And Sarah, I'm going to stick with you. You've talked really positively about these pivotal changes, and in particular the sort of support in the ecosystem. Kieran recently won the AI in Health and Care Award, which has funding attached to it. You've talked a little bit about the supportive nature of the ecosystem. That would be great to elaborate on, but also could you talk a little bit more about how you were able to access the funding opportunities?
Yes, I mean, we didn't just get the AI award. I mean, that in of itself was extraordinary, a significant amount of money to do the deployments that I mentioned. But we've also won Innovate UK grants, a significant amount of money. And it's really, really helped R&D as a small company. You know, the development cycles are long in healthcare, the evidence requirements, the time to get to your clinical trial results. And again, it feels like an unprecedented level of support financially. And then in terms of the resources I was describing, the people who've been assigned by the government to our team, basically so that we're successful, it feels like we've inherited a whole additional team that's just, you know, rooting for us. And very practically doing the stakeholder mapping that we were talking about is so required. So who needs to give approval? How do you do procurement? What are the different mechanisms? There are people in place to do that. And I think that's made a big difference. And I just think it's there's something almost intangible about that drive to make England and the UK just take it to another level in terms of an ecosystem in which companies like ours can succeed and really deliver that improvement to patient outcomes and to doctors that, you know, so many on this call are working to achieve. Yeah, it really just feels like an incredibly special level of support at all levels. And we couldn't be more honored. I mean, we're a small company, we're a company of 50 people. We just have developed this technology that, as far as we know, is performing better than any other technology of its kind in the world. But we couldn't succeed without the support that we have in the time scale that we're moving. We're just moving very quickly, and it's because of that support. And the other thing I would say is just the privilege of working with these sites. I can't tell you how amazing it is to be working with Wales. Like, we're working with the entire country of Wales as part of this award, and them prioritizing. I mean, COVID obviously is the primary priority, but they're trying to figure out as a team, how can they make time? How can they do this real world evaluation that we're going to be doing? So that it's just that sense of camaraderie, passion for patient outcomes, as well as the government support. It just, as I said, it just feels like an incredibly special time.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I mean, it's fantastic hearing from you as a London originated company, although your founders are actually not originally from London. So they use London as this kind of way in which to, you know, leverage all of the great opportunities and this ecosystem and talent, etc. As you're looking to kind of solve this issue. Moving back over to Clint and to Neil. You know, originally your companies are from the US and Canada. Companies frequently try and sell into the UK market without having a team on the ground, and progress can be quite slow. From your experience, and I think you've kind of touched on some of this already, but could you talk a little bit more about why a team on the ground was the right decision for you?
I can certainly jump in there. I've lived it. So, you know, in 2008, I thought that for a short period of time, I could maybe do this going back and forth. And it was about 4 months of some unproductive stop and start until I realized that I had to send for my 4 girls and kind of set up shop here in London. So, so that was a key learning that I will share. You know, never looking back, it was absolutely the right decision. I think, you know, like any business, but certainly the NHS is a relationship business as well. So you really need to be present. You need to be showing that you understand some of the challenges of the business and how your unique value proposition can solve those across the NHS. You need to understand the market and how that will resonate to shape whatever whatever product or service delivery that you may have within your native market. So for us, when we came over, we changed, not materially the product or really the sell, but certainly we Briticized it in certain ways from a flow perspective that really made sense. And we learned a lot by doing that. And that was super exciting as well, because we continued to be challenged. Well, you know, you've deployed X, Y, and Z, but have you thought of this? And gosh, we've never done that before, but you know, we're up for it. We love a good problem. Yes, we can. And so we've taken that and we've put ourselves into different parts of the care continuum that we hadn't done before. So genome, for example, we deployed some solutions around the 100,000 genome project several years ago that was you know, beyond our wildest expectations, and we were thrilled to be able to add to that in terms of value. In the last 9 months with COVID, we kind of dropped a lot of what we were doing relative to kind of new build around getting people into the community sooner, faster, safer, and said, well, how can we help specifically the challenges that are on the table with COVID-19? And we went to work, and in a very short period of time, we delivered 6 different kind of imperatives that helped various parts of the country flow patients safely. And, you know, that feels pretty good here as you can step up and do that as well. I think it also kind of breeds new thinking that we can leverage back in North America, back in some of our clients in Canada and in the US and even New Zealand and Australia. And we build these collaborations across the clinical groups globally, and they share ideas and experiences. And we sit in the middle of this and we learn a ton, but we help facilitate some of these things as well and share some of the great ideas that are coming out of this business here. So it's been a great honor, and it's been really fun as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Over to Neil.
Great. Well, I mean, I agree with all of that. I mean, I think it's, I mean, for us, you know, having if you like, a local team, and we've predominantly got folk actually who have worked in the NHS or have been around the NHS, and it just felt the right thing for us to do is sort of get across the fact that we've got commitment to this, and we understand actually the local settings and how we should go about it. And I think also linked to this is, you know, having people who can help navigate the system a bit, I think we found quite helpful, and you know, to get a sort of more local understanding, whether it be in Manchester or indeed London or anywhere else. We just found that quite useful to do. I mean, I agree. I also agree very much with what Clint was saying about it's quite interesting. The more we look at it in terms of the the problems that we're helping to solve, if you like, are the same here as they are in the US or Australia. And there's a sort of share, if we start to share information about some of that, which we've found really, really useful to do. And our team's been able to do that as well, going back to working with colleagues in the US and vice versa. So we found that quite valuable for the team that we employ here. And they're very proud to say they work for tracking our team. I think that's very important to get across, actually, that we're a values-based organisation, and we really want to be here and win it in this for the long haul, as we are. So I think it's been really useful and very important for us to have a local team.
Brilliant. Thank you both. Makes all the difference. Apologies, I had some light issues kind of shining in here, so that's why I've turned off my camera. I'm going to turn it back on. No, I've disappeared, so turning my camera back off. But thank you all so much. Just before we carry on with the rest of the session, very, very quickly, could you each share one top tip for the companies that are listening in today who are considering London for their expansion, your one key takeaway?
Sarah, go for it.
Oh gosh, my one key takeaway. Honestly, start with Penny and team. They know the ecosystem so well. They know all the players, all the people you want to connect with. And if they don't know them directly, they'll know who to do it. So I would say start with them. And then I would also say, make sure you reach out to the Accelerated Access Collaborative, because their whole job is to make sure that your technology gets adopted more quickly, assuming it meets the clinical evidence requirements. And I would say London's amazing. It's an incredible place. So spend time here if you can.
Why don't I jump in? I mean, I'd say, and I want to come across to make sure that it's a great place to be, and I think the NHS is a great place to work, work with. So I think that's really important to get across. I do think, though, that you need to have conviction and patience. I think, in terms of, if you want to be here, you can absolutely make an impact and a difference, but I think you do need to realise that it is potentially, going to be some challenges here and there, and just to stick with it, And I think, I mean, it also then depends a lot about what you're selling and what your solution is, and about how you might see things slightly differently. So I think you just need to bear that in mind, because it is slightly different depending on which sector you're in. But I think it's a fantastic organisation to work with. I feel very proud to work with it, and yeah. So I think conviction and patience would be my top tip.
Clint, you're on mute.
Unmute. I was just saying my top tip would be, I was agreeing with Sarah and Neil, and then I said my top tip would be accept help. Prospecting, setting up an infrastructure, legal, accounting, company's house, commissioning, tenders, framework agreements, all of these things. English is English. There's, kind of the spoken word is a little bit more transparent than, say, trying to set up a business in Japan, where when I did, I took a lot of help, obviously, but these nuances are different. And so it makes sense to kind of take that direct route, ask for help, and your team is, a great one to go to deliver that help. Thanks.
Thank you all so much. Fantastic chatting with you. Brilliant insights. And now back over to Stura.
Thank you. It was great to have really practical tips at the end. Thanks for sharing your experience, and we really enjoyed listening to, how you actually got to the NHS, working with them, and collaborating efficiently, being here in London with a HQ elsewhere. Thank you so much. I think that was really valuable for all the companies here who are based abroad. So now I would like to ask Dr. Tasmina Goraya from Taylor Wessing to come online. She will update us on the regulations which are due to change because of Brexit, which Clint also referred to. And Tasmina, sorry, I can't see you. Yes, back there. Great. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Hey, no problem at all. Do you have the slides? Great. just have to say that was a really interesting discussion just now, and really exciting and positive thoughts coming out of that. So thank you for that. So I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes on the regulatory changes on Brexit. I'm going to give you a snapshot of the changes to the medical device and medicines regimes in the UK. I'm not going to focus on telemedicine, digital health or PPE, but I'm happy to take questions on those, or if you want to contact me directly on those, I will. So if I could have the first slide, please. Thank you. So where are we? The UK left the European Union at 11 p.m. UK time on the 31st of January 2020. We're currently in a transition period which ends at 11 p.m. UK time on the 31st of December 2020. So during that transition period, we had a status quo, so EU laws remained applicable in the UK. However, as many of you know, you may have seen on the news that we are undergoing, or there are ongoing negotiations between the UK and the European Union on the terms of a free trade agreement. That deal would need to be agreed and ratified by the UK and the European Union over the coming weeks. You may have also seen that there are some significant points of difference at the moment, which are being discussed at a principal level. So the UK Prime Minister is due to travel to Brussels to speak to the President of the European Commission to try and break the current impasse. So today's talk is going to be largely based on guidance and legislation that relates to medicines and medical devices, which is based on the presumption that we will have a deal in due course. One thing to note about the UK framework post-December, so 1st of January 2021, is that the regimes applicable for Great Britain, so England, Wales and Scotland, will be slightly different from Northern Ireland. And the reason behind this is because Northern Ireland will remain aligned with a limited set of rules relating to the European Union's single market to avoid a hard border with the Republic. If I could have the next slide, please. So this slide sets out at a high level what the medical device regime would be like for CE marked devices and under the new regime in the UK from the 1st of January. So the good news is that CE marked medical devices can continue to be placed on the GB market, the Great Britain market, or placed into service in Great Britain until the 30th of June 2023. There are special rules for Northern Ireland, meaning that CE marked medical devices can continue to be placed or put into service on the Northern Irish market after that date, subject to some additional requirements. All medical devices will need to be registered in Great Britain from the 1st of January 2021. However, there are grace periods, so manufacturers or their representatives will have a further period to comply with that requirement. So to give you an illustration, it is based on the risk profile of the medical device concerned. So the higher risk medical devices, like a class 3 medical device, those will need to be registered within 4 months, so May 2021 by that date, and class 1 medical devices within 12 months. There are a couple of things that you should be thinking about if you are currently marketing a medical device in Europe or the UK. 2 points are the authorised representatives. So if you're a manufacturer based outside the EU, you do need an authorised representative. So to continue marketing your medical device in the EU 27, so the European Union, you will need to have an authorised representative based in the European Union. In the UK, there will be a requirement for something comparable called a UK responsible person if the manufacturer is based outside of the UK. Notified bodies is another thing to consider. So if you have a medical device in the higher classifications that require a notified body to oversee the conformity assessment procedure, you you need to check whether that notified body, if it is a UK notified body, it has an establishment in the European Union to allow continuity for the notified body's services, or transfer to a notified body in the European Union. Some of you may know that we are in a period of transition as well at a European level in terms of regulations and legislations for medical devices. So there are 2 new pieces of European legislation coming into line. So one is the EU Medical Device Regulation, the MDR for short, which is due to apply from May 2021. And there's also the In Vitro Diagnostic Devices Regulation as well. Those 2 pieces of legislation will not apply in Great Britain following the 1st of January 2021. This is because these come into application after the UK's exit from the European Union. So the new regime in the UK, it applies from the 1st of January 2021. As mentioned, it's slightly different in Great Britain versus Northern Ireland. It becomes mandatory on the 1st of July 2023. So until that period, you have the choice of having a CE mark device or a UK CA mark, as Anil touched on earlier. So the UK CA mark, which is the UK Conformity Assessment mark, will apply for Great Britain. The conformity assessment procedure is largely based on the 3 medical devices directives, which are currently implemented into UK law. For Northern Ireland, a different mark will be needed, a UK NI mark, but the devices would also need a CE mark. For mainland Europe, so the European Union, you will only need a CE mark. They can't be co-marked with a UK CA mark or a Northern Ireland mark. They have to simply carry the CE mark. There is the concept of UK approved bodies. So these are effectively the same as notified bodies. So the current notified bodies in the UK will become UK approved bodies, and they will oversee the conformity assessment procedures. There are registration requirements, which I've mentioned, and there are also labelling requirements and labelling changes that will become applicable. If I could have the next slide, please. So on to medicines. The law around medicines is quite complicated, so I'm just going to give you a very high-level canter through the regulations for medicines. So the general term is to in order to put a medicine or sell a medicine in a particular country, you need a marketing authorization covering that country. In the UK, prior to its exit from the European Union, there was 4 routes to market, or 4 routes of marketing authorization. The centralized route, which allowed a single marketing authorization, which would cover all of the EU. The decentralized and the mutual recognition procedure, which allows you to get marketing authorizations in other countries based on an earlier existing granted marketing authorization or application. Depends on whether you have a application or a granted MA, which route you go through. And the 4th is the national procedure. So what will happen 1st of January is that for the centralized marketing authorizations, those that have been granted will be automatically converted into national GB marketing authorizations free of charge. For pending centralized applications, it really depends on where in the application process you are as to how that will be treated. For the decentralized procedure and the mutual recognition procedure, we are expecting further guidance from the MHRA as to how those will be dealt with under the UK system. And the national procedure, I've mentioned here on this slide, there are some new assessment routes available from the 1st of January, and one of them for certain medicines is an expedited route to obtaining a marketing authorization. So the period to obtain a marketing authorization could be shorter under some of the new routes that are proposed. Marketing and supply chain issues. The Department of Health and Social Care did write to medicines and medical device suppliers in August, with some suggestions as to what to put in place, things to consider prior to the UK's departure from the European Union on the 31st of December. A further letter was sent in November, a couple of weeks ago, again setting out what you would need to do for being prepared for Brexit. It's worth reading, and it's on the government's website. Another consideration on manufacturing is good manufacturing procedures, which is relevant to the release of medicines onto the market. At present, there isn't a mutual recognition agreement for GMP, which would mean that there would be, regulators would have to do their checks and inspections on both sides of the UK and the GB and the EU border. The ABPI, the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industries, one of the trade bodies here in the UK, as well as its European counterpart, the FPA, have been seeking to achieve a mutual recognition agreement, or get the principals, the UK government and the European Union, to agree a mutual recognition on GMP, and that is still a work in progress. On clinical trials, the rules do vary, or they will change, particularly around where, for example, your clinical trial is being conducted. So, for example, if it's in the UK only, or it's in a mixture of the UK and EU countries. So you need to be thinking about your sponsor, where your sponsor is, where your legal representatives are, whether you need to have a legal representative in the UK. And just wrapping up, the precise nature of the rules that will apply to medicines and medical devices from the 1st of January 2021 will depend on the outcome of ongoing negotiations at the moment. But as other speakers have mentioned at the start of this event, the UK does provide a unique ecosystem to support life science businesses and promote innovation and collaboration. You heard from Sarah from Kieran Medical, and how she talked about how supportive she has found the regulators and the healthcare organisations and the NHS to be. Clint also mentioned the responses in light of COVID-19 and the support of innovation in the UK. The draft legislation for medical devices and medicines also seeks to capitalise on the UK's scientific and innovative heritage, and seeks to continue to attract innovative businesses to the UK. We also have the benefit of a very experienced regulator, the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, which is tasked with guiding and implementing into place the new rules that will apply from the 1st of January. I'd be happy to take any questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Tasmina. So we're running slightly behind schedule. I think we'll have space maybe for one question, which we've seen earlier on the chat. Blair, if you want to direct this question, I think it was probably for Clint, as it's about the comparison about the Canadian system to the UK. If Clint is still there from Strata Health, Blair, you can ask your question.
Sure. Hi, Clint. Are you still there on the call?
I am.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. So since we have a really strong Canadian presence on this call, I'd really like to get Chloe's question answered. Chloe, if you don't mind reading it aloud.
Sure. Thanks, Blair. So the question was, as the Canadian healthcare system is somewhat similar to a smaller private healthcare market, do you think it can be generally easier for a Canadian company to adapt? And just obviously there are differences, but are there any major differences to watch out for in terms of regulatory approvals, tax, legal environment, etc.?
Okay, I got most of that question. It dropped a little bit in the middle, but I think I've got the gist of it. The systems are fairly similar. They have certainly their nuances as well. I think that what I'll say is a Canadian company coming over into the UK will kind of understand how some of the things work in terms of care provided free at the point of delivery. So certain strategic things happen from there. And, you know, depending on what product you're bringing into the NHS, it will kind of lever how you approach that value proposition, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of different things in terms of legal, et cetera, that need to be kind of looked at, but it's pretty seamless with the help of the folks from London and Partners. And, you know, we've used Taylor Wessig for 12, 13 years, for example, to navigate some of the legal things. They recommended accountancies as well. So it was really helpful from that standpoint. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Oh, Sarah.
Sorry. Thank you for answering that question, Clint. Thank you. So we're moving on to our next section. So I'm really pleased to introduce now 4 areas of London, which we will get to know. So in this map, hopefully, we just wanted to give you a bit of an overview for people who might not have been in London. So we have with us today, starting on the left on the west, you can see in yellow there, White City. And we have with us today Richard Wheeler from the Imperial campus there. Then we have in the middle bit, that pink bit, the Knowledge Quarter around King's Cross. And we have with us Jodie Eastwood, the CEO from the Knowledge Quarter. And then to the east, on the right-hand side in blue, we have Whitechapel, and we have Professor Rakesh Upal from Bart's NHS Trust with us today. And we couldn't fit it on the map, so you can see Sutton in green. So it's basically southeast down. So we have Toby Richardson from the Institute of Cancer Research to represent Sutton. So let's dive right in. If we have all of you on the call, if I can ask you, to introduce yourself and the areas you're located in. So if we can start with Jodie, the CEO of the Knowledge Quarter, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Jodie Eastwood. Thank you very much for introducing me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Knowledge Quarter, about our areas of specialisation, and about how we work as an innovation district. So the Knowledge Quarter is situated within a 1-mile radius of King's Cross Station in central London, and it really offers a unique model for innovation and collaboration. It brings together globally significant research and cultural institutions. It brings together fast-growing businesses of all scales and a really diverse and talented local community. And as has been mentioned previously, it's located at the hub of transport infrastructure that connects easily to the rest of the country and indeed to continental Europe. So the Knowledge Quarter is currently attracting quite significant international investment and talent. Over the coming 3 years, McKinsey & Company, Facebook and Google will complete construction of new corporate headquarters in the area. And also in the pipeline is a major extension to the British Library, which is going to be designed to complement the area's world-leading scientific and research facilities. So while we are not sector specific, we are a cross-disciplinary innovation district. We do have our own specialisations that are focused in 3 areas. And those 3 areas are life sciences, obviously very applicable to this call. Now the life sciences focuses especially on emerging infectious diseases, including antimicrobial resistance. It also specialises in musculoskeletal pathology associated with ageing and dementias. In terms of our other specialisations, we are a hub for tech and particularly artificial intelligence and data science. So that's focusing on machine learning, predominantly in data sharing and research. And thirdly, and while not more specifically to this call, still very important for the places in which we want to work, are cultural, scientific and heritage collections, which focus on digital archiving, curation and publishing. So we're an innovation district. We have memberships, so we're a membership organisation as well as being a place. We have over 100 knowledge creating businesses that are part of our network, with many, many more in the area. In our last piece of research in 2018, we established that there were around 143 life science companies in the Knowledge Quarter. And I'll just touch on some notable residents for those to show your neighbours that you would potentially have if you were in the area. So the first and the newest arrival, I suppose, or the newest open building is the Francis Crick Medical Research Institute, which opened in 2016. And the Crick is a partnership between the Medical Research Council, Cancer Research UK, Wellcome, UCL, Imperial College London and King College London, and I don't think I've missed anyone off there. They have over 2,000 scientists translating discoveries into new ways to prevent, diagnose and treat illnesses such as cancer, strokes, neurodegenerative diseases, infections and heart disease. A second notable resident who are in the process of building a £1 billion UK research hub is MSD. Their new London Discovery Research Centre will be a 10-storey, 25,000 square metre space in the heart of King's Cross, which will employ around 800 clinical researchers and office staff in its lab. And finally, and obviously not unsignificantly, Google. Now, Google have had a presence in the area since 2014, and they're currently building their new state-of-the-art London headquarters, which will house 7,000 Googlers, their term, not mine, in these offices once completed. And that's also accompanied by Google DeepMind's headquarters, which is currently home to a team of scientists, engineers, machine learning experts and more, who are all working together to advance machine learning and artificial intelligence as part of us being an AI hub. So in addition to these large companies, we have many startups and scale-ups that are moving into the area to utilise certain shared lab space like the London Bioscience Innovation Centre. And us as an organisation, we've recently begun a programme of activity that includes a detailed spatial analysis of the Knowledge Quarter, which will then go on to inform the creation of more incubators and accelerators through working closely with local authority planning processes. So really interesting area. The final point I want to touch upon, which is really, really important and is really at the heart of our strategy and what we do as a place and an organisation, is inclusive growth. And we acknowledge that many innovation districts across the world have fallen short of supporting the communities of the places in which they occupy. We think that that's a mistake. And in a more socially conscious age, we're looking to how innovation and economic growth can be reflected in job creation, education, and outreach to the citizens that are on our doorsteps, and how we can best co-create solutions to both local but also national and international challenges. And finally, and it sounds kind of a bit cliched at the moment, but perhaps the biggest benefit of being in the Knowledge Quarter, for me particularly, is the intangible but very real phenomenon of new friendships that are being made, new connections that are being forged, new knowledge that's being created, that comes to us through this really intangible aspect of day-to-day encounters between people that may not share the same discipline, but we are all brought together with a sense of shared purpose and possibility. And that's really what the Knowledge Quarter is about, is bringing people together to collaborate, to research, and to work with our neighbours to make a better place for everybody to live, work and visit.
Thank you, Jodie. I mean, this all goes really well together with the Mayor's Good Growth agenda. So I think, that kind of ticks all the boxes. Thank you for giving us a flavor of the Knowledge Quarter. We've also posted on the chat the website, which has a really nice map of the Knowledge Quarter where you can see which companies are located there. So we're going over to Toby to talk to us about the Institute of Cancer Research.
Thanks, Sarah, and good afternoon. I'm Dr. Toby Richardson, Head of Business Development and Licensing at the ICR and Deputy Director of Business and Innovation. The Institute of Cancer Research in London is an independent academic research institute and college of the University of London. We have a unique relationship with the Royal Marsden Hospital, which means we form the largest comprehensive cancer centre in Europe. We're also in the top 4 centres for cancer research and treatment in the world. And I think our close location, being co-located has really helped that and enabled us to provide a true bench to bedside approach. As we both have sites in central London and in Sutton, which is about 7 miles south of central London. In terms of products, we are probably best known for discovering the prostate cancer drug abiraterone, which has annual global sales of about $4 billion. And abiraterone benefits hundreds of thousands of patients worldwide each year and is believed to have extended life overall by 250,000 years. It is the greatest current achievement of the most successful academic drug discovery centre in the world. And since 2005, they have also discovered 20 drug development candidates and progressed 10 into phase 1 clinical trials. But that's just one of our 8 research divisions. We also have molecular pathology, radiotherapy and imaging, breast cancer research, clinical studies, cancer biology, genetics and epidemiology, and structural biology. So our near 1,000 scientists cover a very broad range of research, from developing the next generation of cancer drugs, novel biomarkers and new approaches to radiotherapy, to gaining a better understanding of the molecular basis of cancer and what influences cancer risk, to investigating new ways of diagnosing and evaluating tumours. So a lot of high quality IP is generated at the ICR, and this is reflected by us being the top ranked academic institution in the UK, according to the REF, which is the Research Excellence Framework, which is the UK government's most robust assessment of research excellence. And this reflects the big economic and social benefit that our research has had. This impact has largely been driven by our partnerships with industry, and hence we're very keen to be part of events such as this to meet new partners and explore future collaboration.
Thank you very much, Toby. We'll go over to Rakesh, who's in hospital now. And Rakesh is part of the Barts Life Sciences Trust in Whitechapel. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm not sure if the iPad, you can. My name is Rakesh Uppal. I'm first and foremost a practicing heart surgeon, and part of my responsibility is to lead life sciences for both university in East London, QMUL and Barts Health. I suppose we're slightly different from some of the other life sciences spaces in London in that we're very much focused on translation. And the point I try to make about that is where Whitechapel is and where the space for life sciences is right bang next to the largest hospital trust in the United Kingdom. The other rather interesting thing about Whitechapel is that we look after about 2.5 million patients. And for many, many years, we've had integrated electronic health records, both in tertiary care and also into primary care. This wasn't because we were thinking of data or AI many, many years ago. That's just how the system has evolved. So what we're trying to do at Whitechapel is focusing on medtech, primarily because we've got such a large and diverse population base. We have strengths in genomics. We host Genomics England on our campus. And we also have quite a big presence with East London Genes and Health, which is looking at genetic profiles of the Bangladeshi community and the Asian community in London, but actually also into Bradford, Manchester, and Leeds. So it's spreading its wings, and that's quite an interesting archive of data. What we've done as a trust is that we have digitized all of our imaging. We've moved into digital pathology. We're into electronic prescribing, so that you actually have a very robust data sets on patients. And that's kind of one of the things I think that's going to be really important as we move forward with medtech. For instance, when we've had the COVID issues around and the pandemic, we were able to use our electronic systems to look at 7,000 patients that we've treated with COVID, using machine learning and AI algorithms to extract data from our information systems and provide sets of data for research, both internally, but more importantly, collaboratively with industry and other systems. So we think that's a really important bit for us. We're starting off small. We have agreement for 20,000 square feet of space as an incubator, primarily for SMEs. but we've also done master planning for about 1 million square feet of space between the university and the trust. So it's all about 10 meters from the front door of the hospital. And that's the sort of next big plan, with a lot of input from the Department of Health into this sort of space. And I'll stop there. And, you know, we're on the website, happy to talk to you offline. But what we're really into is translation, data, AI, and medtech.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. And Richard from Imperial White City is next up. Great, there you are, Richard. Thank you. Share with us what we can expect in White.
Good evening. My name is Richard Wheeler. I'm the Director of Business Development at the Imperial College based in White City. For those of you who've visited university campuses in the past, you'll know that academics tend to work in silos. So you get all the business school people in one building, you get the chemists in another, the physics in another, the medical scientists in another. White City is our brand new campus. And what we have done here is to mix everybody up. We've put multidisciplinary teams into a number of different buildings on the campus so that they are forced to work together, encouraged to work together, I should say, rather than forced, encouraged to work together and working on global challenges. Imperial College has been in London for over 130 years. Our main campus is at South Kensington. White City is a brand new venture for us. It's 23 acres. It's an opportunity as well to base your business in the heart of a university campus, which is unusual in London. Studies have shown that you're 3 times more likely to collaborate if you co-locate with a university. And we are, I think, ideally placed. We're 30 minutes from Heathrow, about 15 minutes from central London, about 5 minutes from the nearest tube. You get the best of London, but in the west of London. You get all the shops, the pubs, the hotels, restaurants, wine bars. There's a drinking theme coming through here, I think. Housing, clubs, flats, but you're in a much quieter, less frenetic, and above all, less expensive area. We've got currently over 1,300 academics working in a variety of multidisciplinary areas. And I'll talk about that a bit later on when I come to say what I am actually doing there. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Maybe we'll just go reverse order and stay with you for a minute. Can you maybe share with us some kind of specific opportunities for companies which are arising in the next few months? And I know that you're developing more space in White City. So is there any specific opportunities you can point companies to at the moment?
Indeed, I'm based in what we call the Translation and Innovation Hub, or the iHub for short. It's a 187,000 square foot, 11 floor building, which is a mix of labs and offices. And we have companies in there. We've got over 80 companies in there, ranging from incubatees, early stage organizations in an 18,000 square foot incubator, through to multinational businesses. Over 1,300 people are currently employed there. And we have a wide range of opportunities from fitted or bespoke labs through to offices. Sorts of companies that we have there range from life sciences. There's a big life science theme there. Public health, we've got a School of Public Health arriving there soon. From cancer therapy through to compostable plastics, quantum laser computing to defense and security, DNA synthesis through to drone technology. It's a wide range of opportunities. A lot of our companies are based in cancer therapy, T-cell work. So it's an opportunity really to co-locate, to base yourself there and have access to the academics who are working there. We have a big molecular science research hub there, lots of incredible equipment available for our lessees, our tenants to work on. We also have one of Europe's biggest biomedical engineering hubs, which has just recently opened, and again, have access to the academics and all the incredible techniques and apologies.
That's the call.
I have a father-in-law who's intent on calling me tonight.
Maybe just to finish off, I just wanted to mention that Novartis, a pharmaceutical company, actually is since end of last year located literally just next to Imperial White City College. So I think the kind of the wider ecosystem is expanding quite a lot. If we can move on. Sorry, Richard, I'm just going to mute you in a minute. So,
okay, sorry about that.
If we can ask Rakesh now maybe to share a little bit more about the opportunity for medtech. So I've spoken to one of your colleagues before about companies coming to test their devices and to kind of develop them and adjust them to the local needs, especially foreign companies. And if you can maybe also share a bit more about the co-location opportunities in Whitechapel.
So, I mean, one of the things we're doing is around cardiovascular hub. We're a very big heart center, the largest in Europe in terms of patient flow and what's going through it. So we've got a cardiovascular hub in conjunction with Yale and with QMUL, where we are both designing new cardiovascular therapeutic devices. And these are interventional devices, either stents or implantable devices, with the School of Bioengineering at the university, and also trialing it in the space that we're in. So this sort of co-location between the university and the hospital trust and large, clinical bits of excellence allow that kind of tech interaction. And because the systems are now all both integrated and digital, getting data back out from that is relatively easy compared to, say, 5 years ago. So that's an area of expertise that you would find useful if you were coming to the East End of London, which again is really well connected. And also, we think one of the things that we're really great at is diversity. I mean, we look after about 90 different nationalities in our system and speak just over 65 languages in the hospital. So we've got our strapline is we've got the gene pool of the world at our doorstep. So that's one of the interesting things we're doing. We've given quite a lot of money away in the last 3 years on artificial intelligence with Capital Enterprise, and this is predominantly EU monies, which have been sort of matched pound for pound by the hospital's charities. So I think in the last 3 years, we've given about £4 million away. And the basis of all of these work around AI is around startups. So anyone working in the AI space, the upside is that you've got to develop an SME and float out within a 12-month period. And we've been relatively successful in that kind of space. So yeah, medtech, AI, and data, again, very big space. We've had a number of quite large grants in the last 18 months around hubs around precision medicine, around computational biology, and obviously with Genomics England and Genes for Health being so close, bring genomics and data together. And then we've just landed a big Chinese sequencing company that's going to be sequencing, third generation sequencing on the Whitechapel site. And that will cut both the cost, but more importantly, the speed of whole genome sequencing very, very substantially, by about 40%.
Brilliant. Thank you for elaborating on this. And Toby from the ICR, could you share with us the opportunities in Sutton to co-locate and collaborate with the ICR there?
Thanks, Zoe. Yes, no problem. We currently have active partnerships with around 100 companies, ranging from individual projects to major strategic collaborations. And those companies vary greatly from small specialized biotech and medtech firms to big pharma, and can be found in many different countries across the globe. We are an applied institute focused on improving the lives of cancer patients, and it's only through working with companies that we are able to fulfill our mission of making the discoveries that defeat cancer. So the drive for us to work together with industry is very strong. I've already mentioned that we're highly ranked in the UK, but we're also highly ranked globally in many measures of industry collaboration, working with companies to translate our discoveries into treatments and technologies used for the care of cancer patients across the world. Good examples of these are that we're first in the world for the percentage of publications that are cited in patents, and we're in the top 5 in the world for academic influence and commercial impact, according to UMultirank. And we have opportunities to collaborate with researchers across a broad spectrum of oncology, covering all the research that we do that I've already mentioned, including immune oncology, big data and AI, imaging, medical physics, as well as drug discovery and development. We're also pursuing ambitious plans for the future, which will enable companies to co-locate with us and tap into the innovative environment we have for cancer research in Sutton. The ICR is the lead partner in the London Cancer Hub project. It's a science park initiative being led jointly with the London Borough of Sutton, who has bought an old hospital site next to our South London site. And it aims to become the world's leading life science cluster for cancer research, treatment, education, and enterprise, over a 12-acre site, providing 100,000 square meters of commercial space for life science and technology companies, creating 7,000 jobs and contributing an estimated £1.2 billion per year to the UK economy. The first building in that, our flagship £75 million Centre for Cancer Drug Discovery, has now been completed, and our scientists are at this moment, over these weeks, moving into it. It will enable us to significantly expand our drug discovery efforts and combine them with our cancer evolution research, providing a unique opportunity for companies to collaborate with our scientists. We are also soon to launch a new incubator space at the London Cancer Hub called the New Innovation Gateway, which will house lab and office space and be the home for startups, spin-outs, and teams from larger companies, and offers a chance to work on site directly with our scientists. It comprises 6,300 square feet of incubator space, including 7 modern Category 2 labs, along with office space and other shared lab space and facilities. And there is also the potential for companies to expand further. So hopefully you've seen that the ICR is one of the world's most influential cancer research institutes, and one that's very much open for business. Obviously, we welcome anyone who's interested in coming to work with us and co-locate with us. So if you're interested in collaborating, please do come and talk to us.
Thank you very much. We've just shared your details on the chat as well. So it's good to hear that there's more lab spaces being built in London, which of course is one of the things which we were lacking. Jodie, if you could finish off and maybe elaborate a bit more what we were just talking about with Rakesh about the AI data with life sciences, how does that kind of combination come together in the Knowledge Quarter?
Yeah, of course. I think first of all, I just want to touch on the fact that sometimes it feels a little bit like a battle royale of innovation districts, and we're all in the room together. But I can test that whichever part of London you decide to move to, if you do so, then you will have world-class access to world-class academic research and facilities that are unparalleled with the rest of Europe. So that's just an over London kind of pull there. But in terms of AI and data science, I think that we all recognise that artificial intelligence is going to impact across all sectors of the economy. I think that the statistics say that it's estimated that it could add around 580 billion to UK's GVA by 2035. And the UK is going to have the strongest AI machine learning market in Europe, which is all good news. In this context, the Knowledge Quarter has significant strengths. We have 12 universities in our innovation space, and UCL is the highest ranked university for computer science in the UK by grade point average. And the Knowledge Quarter's universities have a range of multidisciplinary research centres which tap into AI machine learning. Additionally, 11 of the UK's top 50 artificial intelligence businesses are located in the area, which is evidence that it's a developing hub. Beyond the universities, there are nationally significant assets in the area, which include predominantly the Alan Turing Institute, which was created as the National Institute for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. So the ATI, currently housed at the British Library, soon to move into a new building, undertakes research which tackles some of the biggest challenges in science, society and the economy. Interestingly, it's fully collaborative in its model, so it collaborates with universities, it collaborates with businesses, it collaborates with public and third sector organisations, all to apply their research to real world problems. And again, interestingly, within the Knowledge Quarter, there are strong links between the research base and the growth of data science businesses. So the founders of DeepMind, for example, retain really strong connections to the university base. They were a UCL spin out, so it makes sense to develop and maintain those relationships. And the ability to attract and retain talent is vitally important in this market. It's so highly competitive that the data science skills, being able to tap into the universities is really important. We hope that the Knowledge Quarter has proved attractive as a destination for researchers in this area, and it will be critical in terms of all sectors going forward, but particularly for life sciences. So, you know, using technologies like AI is a critical part for developing and discovering medicines for serious diseases. Data and intelligence are powering a new age of research and discovery that will help develop treatments faster and reduce costs, which we know that life sciences can be a very kind of costly business. But interestingly, all elements of data science, AI and machine learning are explored by academics and researchers in the KQ. So that includes designing computers for the next generation of algorithms, ethics in data science and artificial intelligence, which is obviously a really massive thematic area, accelerating data availability to facilitate theory testing, and additionally, and probably most importantly, data security and privacy. And that's kind of highlighted by the number of additional research centres that apply expertise in data science. So the UCL Institute for Digital Health and the Institute for Health Informatics are two off the top of my head that would be appropriate with. Just to end quickly, we've, much like most of the innovation spaces in London, we're always growing and we're always excited to announce new developments. And our latest announcement is that GlaxoSmithKline has partnered with NVIDIA to launch a £10 million artificial intelligence hub in the Knowledge Quarter. So their aim is to find new cures and treatments for cancer, particularly in other serious diseases, by tapping into the areas artificial intelligence brains, and is one of many examples of the opportunities for collaboration that you'll see in the KQ, but also across the whole of London.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone to share with us the four corners of London and to give us all a flavour. So before going on to the closing remarks by Linda McGee from the Department for International Trade, we will run a quick poll just to ask your feedback from all the attendees about the event so that we can improve future events. So Kuhn, if you can start the poll. It's just a quick survey of 3 questions which will launch now just before going over to the next section. So the first question here is here, how did you find the session? And then the second question is, after the session, how likely are you to think about an expansion in London? And the third question below is, how likely are you to recommend London and Partners to other businesses? So we'll just give this a couple of seconds for everyone, and then we'll go over to Linda to talk to us about the UK in general and what the future perspectives are, just to finish. We'll just wait a couple of seconds to have about 50% of you. Thank you for everyone who's been answering. If anyone else can go through the 3 questions, then we can carry on in a moment. Super, thank you very much. We can close the poll for now. Lovely. So Linda, if I can ask you to come online and leave us with the closing remarks. After that, we will have time for a few questions. We have run slightly over, but we have a few minutes after Linda's talk to answer any questions. So do stay on with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm just checking, can everyone hear me? Good, thank you. Firstly, thank you to Sarah and her colleagues at London and Partners for inviting me to join you today, whatever time zone you're in. And it's been very interesting to listen to all of the speakers. So my comments are going to be quite short and sweet. I'm sure you all want to get on with the final Q&A and on to your business of the day. We've heard already about Brexit, and Tasmina gave an excellent talk about the regulatory side of things. As most of you are very aware, and from the introduction, we're just awaiting the finality of the negotiations with the EU, and expect the Prime Minister to travel to Brussels this week to have those conversations. So there's not a lot more to be said at this point. On free trade agreements with other countries, for those of you from Canada, you may already know that in November, our Secretary of State Liz Truss agreed a rollover agreement with Canada, and more conversations to go on, very positive conversations to go on next year. And in the US, there's been 5 rounds of discussions so far, and there's a timetable now out following the election, a presidential election in the US. So again, we're very hopeful of all the opportunities that might open up for companies in the US and Canada. It's also worth saying, alongside the type of information that Tasmina and professional colleagues like her can provide, the government website has also got a very large number of, a number of links, providing a lot of details. We can give those to you as well. And that includes MHRA, our regulatory body, and more general business requirements for placing products on the market in the UK. So just really to finish off, thinking about our own specifics of our own sector, the UK is definitely open for business. And we're very keen to work with you all to see if we can ease your journey as an investor and partner into the UK. We do have a global hub for life sciences, and you've heard some of those examples in the panel that's just gone. We do punch above our weight in terms of our science base. And I think many will have seen this in evidence around the recent work with the COVID vaccine and things like the discovery trials for therapies with COVID. We have a great business environment, and you've heard about such an environment in London. There are others. I work in DIT, so we're here to support national partners, but London's a great place, and you've got many good examples to go on. So we have a leading science base, and that can also really produce world-class talent. So a lot of people out there to work with and potentially employ from our graduate and early stage career personnel. And the NHS, we spent a lot of time talking about the NHS. Those of us in the UK and some of us who've worked in the NHS as well are very, very proud of that, and I think that's come through from many of the speakers. It is, as has been pointed out, a single as a single strategy, but there are multiple organisations within it. It is recognised that it can be difficult to access, but there's a lot of work going on to make that much easier for investors. For example, the Accelerated Access Collaborative, which I think Sarah mentioned earlier, which is a coming together of the NHS with the regulators, with industry, with patient groups, with support infrastructure, all there to look at getting the best innovation from wherever in the world into the NHS and patients as quickly as possible. And we're also committed now next year that the likelihood of bringing on the medtech mandate, as it's been referred to, which will provide a reimbursement mechanism for medtech devices, diagnostics, digital health, which we haven't had, although we have one for drugs, we don't have it for medtech. So these are very, very promising and encouraging developments within the UK. There have been developments also with our procurement system. It again can be very confusing to the outside world, but we have had things like new dynamic purchasing frameworks in place, particularly around digital health to support COVID. We have one that was put in place before COVID as well to support online consultations. So all of these allowing more opportunities to new and exciting companies coming in with products and services that may have been shut out for a period of time due to the framework lengths. So I think I'd really like to finish off by saying that we do know that getting into the NHS can be hard, but when you do get traction, as we've heard, the NHS has a global reputation as a reference for other markets, and I think we're very keen to build on IMA's gold star status. So thank you to IMA for their descriptions of what you need to do to get into that market. And I think it's also important not to forget that once you're here and you have had that traction, you've got something to talk about, we can also help you then export from the UK. So the journey doesn't end just when you come in as an investor. So I hope I've just made the point, I've reinforced everything that you've heard from the other speakers today. We're open for business and we want to hear from you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Linda. And Blair was just posting on the chat to say, wherever you're located, there will be a British embassy and they will have a team working on trade and investment. So let us know if you want to get in touch with the Department for International Trade. We do work in partnership with them. Thank you so much for everyone. I know we're running slightly above time, so I do understand if you have to drop off. But I thought if we can maybe stay a couple more minutes to maybe address one or two questions. If I can ask my colleague Blair to come on, and if there's any questions, because we have also here our partner organization, MedCity, and Nikki Bromwich, their Chief Operating Officer, is here with us today. And I think there were a couple of questions we wanted to ask her.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Blair.
Thanks very much for engaging in the chat. We've had several requests for connections in the chat, and we'll make all those post-event. Otherwise, so Nikki from MedCity, we'd love to kind of hear from you a couple of minutes. We had a lot of questions pre-registration that are about kind of the funding and the expansion opportunities in the UK and London. More general questions that I was hoping, like the resources that you can provide, can help to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's been excellent discussion this afternoon, which speaks to the heart of what MedCity is set up to do. MedCity is the cluster organisation for the world-leading health and life science community here in London and the Greater South East of England. We were established in 2014 by Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London, and our founding partners are the regional academic health science centres at UCL, King's and Imperial and QMUL. And we're set up to drive growth and investment in life sciences. So we promote the region internationally, but also work with all foreign direct investment companies wanting to come and base themselves in the UK. And as already been said, the UK is definitely open for business, and we're here to help everybody. So we simplify the ecosystem and help navigate through the region. And as everybody has said, it is complex, but there's lots of resources here, and MedCity is another resource to support you. So we can help you collaborate with researchers, seek investment, or locate in the region and help direct you to all of these amazing cluster sites that we've heard about today throughout London. So we work very closely with Surah and Kurna LMP. And our team have a deep knowledge of the ecosystem, both academic and NHS, and we can advise you on many things. We can support you to find academics, to set up clinical trials, to find partnerships, and to understand the health economic evaluation or the evidence that you need to generate to support your value proposition and your business plan. We can also help you find lab or incubation space or even office space to base yourself in, as well as access to finance via our investment hub. We build communities, and we have communities that may interest you. We work closely with digital health companies through our links with regional and national accelerators and incubators, and we are integral to the development of the NICE evidence standards framework for digital health technologies, and we can help companies to navigate through that fairly complex framework. And we also have active communities in advanced therapies and our investor network. So please feel free to contact us on the email address fdi@ posted in the chat or via LinkedIn, and we'll see how we can help you. Thanks, Blair.
Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Nikki. So everyone on this call will work with MedCity in some fashion. So thank you so much. So another question we have, and I'll put it in the chat. I think this could potentially be for Toby or kind of anybody maybe that spoke in the last panel. But what opportunities are available for collaborating with organizations to champion our cancer-fighting cell-based technology into phase 1 clinical trials? MedCity or Toby?
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to take that one. I mean, we have a joint initiative with the Royal Marsden Hospital called the Oak Ward, which runs a number of phase 1 clinical trials every year. So that helps us to be able to translate our drug discovery efforts into the clinic. We will also run clinical trials for partners. You know, pharma-sponsored trials are very standard for us. So I suppose we just welcome anyone to get in touch if they're interested in running a clinical trial in this country. We'll put them in touch with the right clinicians and researchers, and if it fits with our research interests, I'm sure it's something we'd be keen to run.
Great, thank you, Toby. All right, I'll hand it back over to Sarah. I think we're running out of time.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone who stayed on the call. I'm really sorry we've run over time. So I do want to thank all our speakers for giving up their time, especially the speakers who are also clinicians and working as we speak. So thank you for everyone. Thanks for everyone who attended. And so as we're in an online environment, I'll have to wave you off. Normally I'd go around, shake your hands and say goodbye to all of you. So we'll finish the meeting for today by counting down to 5. And just a reminder, tomorrow we will share the recording of the session and the slides we've used. And we do hope that you stay in touch with us. So thank you, everyone. We'll count down and wave you off. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Bye-bye.